This video is one in a series of educational videos produced by the APGA Security and Integrity Foundation to explain the basics of operating a natural gas distribution system. The SIF is a non-profit organization dedicated to assisting small utilities in the safe operation and maintenance of natural gas piping systems. Let's face it, nobody gets up in the morning and says, "Oh man, I can't wait to read me some pipeline safety regulations." But those regulations are there for a reason, so let's take a few minutes and hit the high points. Federal pipeline safety regulations are found in Chapter 49 of the Code of Federal Regulations, Parts 190 through 199. State regulatory agencies can require additional regulations, but that's for another day. These are the regulations that prescribe standards for the design, construction, operation, and maintenance of natural gas distribution, gas transmission pipelines, hazardous liquid lines, and liquefied natural gas facilities. Part 192 is the part we are focusing on here. It's the one specific to gas pipelines, both distribution and transmission. The part is broken down into 16 different subparts. Now you get the pleasure of learning what those subparts are about. Subpart A is pretty general. Think of it as a dictionary where you can look up all the words that are coming up in the rest of the regulations, things like the different types of gas lines and such. Subpart B is a bit more specific. It talks about the materials that can be used to construct natural gas pipelines like steel and polyethylene plastic. This section also contains the requirements for transporting pipe to the job site without damaging it. Subpart C lays out the requirements for pipe design, including a formula for determining the maximum pressure based on the strength of the steel, plastic, and other factors. And similarly, Subpart D details the requirements for the design of other components in the pipeline system, valves, pressure regulators, and other fittings. Subpart E is everything you ever wanted to know about welding but were afraid to ask. It explains the requirements for developing acceptable welding procedures and for testing welders to make sure they know how to follow those procedures. There is also information about welding in the field and inspecting welds when the job is done. But of course, there are many ways to join two pipes together, and Subpart F explains the requirements for using methods such as mechanical joints, special fittings, and plastic pipe fusion. Next is Subpart G, as in, good lord, how many subparts are there? Don't worry, the end is in sight. G lays out all you need to know before you start laying out transmission lines and mains. Things like proper inspection of materials, repair of steel and plastic pipe, how to install a pipe in a ditch, the minimal clearance for buried facilities, and the minimum depth of cover. An easy way to remember Subpart H is that it deals with the home. See what I did there? Anyway, this section includes requirements for proper location and installation of customer meters, as well as service lines and valve requirements. We all know corrosion is a major threat to natural gas equipment. That's where Subpart I comes in. It tells you what you need to know and do to minimize the corrosion threat. Coating, cathodic protection, and inspection requirements. Subpart J. Whenever a new pipe is installed or a section of existing line is replaced, there are steps that must be taken to ensure the pipe has sufficient strength for the pressure at which it will operate. This section spells out the pressure test requirements, one method for establishing the maximum pressure allowed for the pipeline. Let's say you want to increase the maximum allowable operating pressure, or MAOP, for an existing piece of pipe. We in the business call this uprating, by the way. Then you should check out Subpart K, which tells you how to do so safely. Subpart L is pretty intense. It describes the requirements for safely operating a pipeline system, including mandating that operators develop and follow a written operations and maintenance manual. We have a whole other video on this thing, but for now we'll just tell you that the manual includes procedures for operating, inspecting, and maintaining the pipeline. It also discusses excavation damage prevention, emergency response, public awareness, purging, and the odorization of gas. By sheer coincidence, Subpart M deals with maintenance. Here you'll find requirements for performing leak surveys, valve and vault maintenance, pressure regulators, and how to abandon a facility that's been taken out of service. Subpart N covers the requirements for training and testing utility personnel who perform safety-sensitive tasks so that they have the necessary knowledge and skills to perform those duties. Subpart O. My gosh, there are only two left. Subpart O deals with transmission pipeline integrity management, which is just an elaborate way of saying requires operators of transmission lines to follow a written integrity management plan that requires additional inspection and testing of transmission lines located near populated areas or areas where a significant number of people gather. Whew. And finally, Subpart P. This final section requires operators to develop and follow a written distribution management plan that includes evaluating the system for risks to integrity, things like corrosion, excavation damage, or other threats. In addition, the operator must identify steps to be taken to reduce those risks if and when they are identified. So that's it. You've made it through every subpart. Grab a cup of coffee, maybe take a cold shower. For more information, visit apgasif.org or follow us on Facebook and Twitter. And for a complete list of videos, go to apgasif.org/gas101.